the show start yet? The show started. What's up, guys? Sound Booth Theater Live. Feeling kind of weird today. It's a little goofy, which I guess is normal for me to feel weird and goofy. Hey, Truffle, what's going on? You miss Twitch? I kind of do too, but I can't find. Ray Johnson's asking for a free book already. He knows how to get things done around here. I miss Twitch too, but it's just too much work messing with OBS and or Wirecast. I've been using Wirecast for a long time, and I think I've only actually been using Wirecast because I spent money on it. I think OBS is overall a better program, and I should maybe switch back to it, and maybe I'll actually figure out how to use it to a point where, I can incorporate music again, just like for an intro, something nice for the beginning, or uh, actually get people on the stream through Google Hangouts and still have the graphics, you know, that I can move around and stuff. Uh, I need to get back into really thinking about ways to make this show a little bit more fun to watch. And Twitch, I think, was a slightly better program, slightly better platform. Not as much views as YouTube, obviously, but Twitch is cool. I like the interface a little bit better, and I just like the vibe a little bit better, you know. But for now, I use the Hangouts because I like to be able to invite other people on. I think it's more fun when there's someone else doing readings, or at least an author, giving me directions, or um, making comments or whatever about my performance. So anyway, on to the show. We are going to be reading through a Slime Dungeon novella today by Jeffrey Falconlogue. I'm sure most of you know what the Slime Dungeon is. It hit big, I think maybe it was 2016 when Jeffrey Falconlogue released that, and it's been going strong ever since. One of maybe the first dungeon genre lit RPG out there. I don't know. My lit RPG history isn't perfect. Um, then more slime. We will be reading from, what is it? Slime Gods. Let me look it up one more time. Book 2 of a series by an author named Out Out something. Sorry, guys. Uh, there we go. Outspan Foster. Sorry about that. This is book 2 of a series. I'm not sure what this series is called. Slime, I guess. Slime. The first one is called Call of Tuatha, and this one is called Gods. This is book 2. And I can only guess what it's about, but this is going to be a very slimy requests only, apparently. And then we have one more request from a Royal Road Legends story. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh no, I'll just look at my Facebook. Duh. Yes, Fantasy Royale. That sounds really interesting. So yeah, let's get this started. I think I read some from Slime Dungeon a long, long time ago, like maybe one of the first 10 or 12 Sound Booth Theater lives. I read that one. Um, and since then, I think Jeffrey Falconlogue has gone with Tantor for his audiobook needs, which makes a lot of sense because Tantor is awesome. I think it's Tantor. But yeah, it's been doing really well on Audible as far as I've been able to tell. And so this is a short story that he wrote. Let me find the title one more time. Millie's Story. Um, Knife in the Dark. That's what it's called. It's got a pretty cool cover. If you look at the thumbnail of the YouTube video, you'll see a skull on. Is that a tablecloth? Let me see. Millie's Story. There it is. All right. That looks like a knife. A knife on a tablecloth on a pedestal and a skull. Looks interesting. So let's see what this is all about. If I'm not mistaken, Millie is like the fairy, the guidance fairy, the tutorial fairy, or something in the story. A slime glab book, Truffle is requesting. You find one, and I'll do it. Okay, so here goes. Slime Dungeon Novella Book 1. Okay. He's giving me direction Millie. Only voice that matters is MC Millie, almost 18-year-old independent woman, tavern raised. Okay, so maybe she's not a fairy. I asked him if that meant more of a medieval streets type, and his response was, I suppose. I don't honestly have a voice in mind. All right. So, Cockney, I guess. What's up, Jay Tavares? Thanks for joining us. Um, we're about to get started on Slime Dungeon Novella Book 1, Millie's Story, Knife in the Dark. Millie fiddled with her fingers, spinning a twig between them like a dancer around the forest trees. She finally made it to her pinky when the twig flew off and broke against the wall. Sighing in annoyance, she once again examined the room in which she was being kept. As expected, the room was made completely out of stone, a material very hard to dig through or break through by explosions. There were no windows, just a single stone door at the left corner. In the center of the room stood a wooden table and two chairs on either side, with the young lady in one of them, still cuffed. She rolled her eyes at the obvious reasons why she was being kept here. "Hey, I know you can hear me." She raised her voice to the ceiling. "Look, I've been good and patient for 2 hours now, sitting here in your steel cuffs and not breaking anything. Can I get some food now?" There was no answer. Millie groaned and dropped her head onto her arms. She was starting to feel bored, now that she had run out of twigs. This was the first time she had had to wait so long for someone to come in and talk to her. Leaning back up, she began to drum on the table, counting in beat to one of the new popular bard songs. She hummed the beat to the movement of her fingers. She started with her right hand, but frowned and switched hands to keep feeling the beat. As she reached the chorus for the second time, her stomach growled. Twitching, Millie leaned back and looked down to pat her belly. "All right, I guess that means it's time to go," she muttered, shrugging to herself. She cracked her neck, rolling to the left and right. With a quick prayer, a red light engulfed her shackles and unlocked them. The metal cuffs clattered onto the wood table, leaving Millie free to rub away the soreness in her wrist. Standing up out of the chair, the young lady turned around and walked to the back wall. She knocked the stones randomly with her fists, listening to the sound of the knocking until she found the spot she was looking for. With a grin, Millie kneeled onto the floor and prayed. "Beloved Temptra, goddess of desire, hear my prayer for devotion," Millie whispered. "I am your humble servant, and I call upon your power to free me from this prison. Grant me grant me the fun ability of create grant me the fun ability of creating large explosions with my fists so that I may cause a mighty ruckus that you and I can have a good laugh at." Crap. "Grant me the fun ability of creating large explosions with my fists so that I may cause a mighty ruckus that you and I can have a good laugh at." Ugh. I don't know if I did that right. Mm, we'll move on. In her mind, Millie heard the faint tinkle of a giggle. Upon her folded hands, a red, heatless fire sprung into being, surrounding her fingers and palm. Millie stood up and, using her right hand, made a fist experimentally. The formless red turned the formless red turned darker and concentrated on her knuckles. With a huge grin, Millie swung her arm back and forth in preparation, making large, unnecessary motions as if she were exercising. Pausing for just a second, she turned her head slightly to eye the door. It remained shut. Mm. She audibly sighed. Yeah, I see I'm not actually bluffing, guys. No. Yeah, see, I'm not actually bluffing, guys, she called out. Come on now. This will be coming out of your salaries. Maybe even your bonuses. Okay, I just got someone messaged me. Oh, Charles. Putting up the stream. He's putting up his stream link. So I'll be putting that in the chat for later on. We are drinking with Charles, Annie and I, and Neven Ilyev. For any of you, Everybody Loves Large Chess fans, you can all go freak out and tell everybody else who likes Everybody Loves Large Chess, that Neven's going to be here with me. You better do it. Sorry, did I scare anybody? Okay. Sorry, guys, back at it. Don Barnett, any codes left? Is that any way to ask for an audiobook? That didn't sound like a lot of conviction. It's like, oh, I hear you have codes sometimes. Is that true? You gotta ask. You gotta be like, I want the audiobook. And I better hear that in the chat. I better hear that exact inflection. You're just not getting it, dude. Sorry, guys. I gotta plug my Kindle in, and I can't find the... Here it is. Okay. Where was I? Truffle wants one. Can I, Purdy, please have a book? Yes, Dave. Don. Yes, Don, you can have one. Okay. Cocky-looking officer. She's bluffing. There's no way she'd do that here. In a different part of the building, a cocky-looking officer was watching a magical image showing the interrogation room where Millie was being kept. In front of him, two guards were twitching nervously at the sight of the red flame. I'm giving out 5 today. 1, 2, that's 3 people so far. So I got 2 left. Okay. In a different part of the building, a cocky-looking officer was watching a magical image showing the interrogation room where Millie was being kept. In front of him, 2 guards were twitching nervously at the sight of the red flame. The stone room was small, consisting of a large table with 3 crystal balls arranged in a triangle that each displayed part of the image. The 2 soldiers sat in front of the table, and the officer stood behind the soldiers. Captain Hawkins, the soldier on the left spoke up nervously. Sir, I don't think she's bluffing. Captain Hawkins rolled his eyes and used his left hand to push his hair back. Listen, soldier, this isn't my first interrogation, he reprimanded. In situations like these, the accused are always looking for ways to take back control of the situation. A good interrogator must not so easily give in to their demands. Otherwise, they'll become cocky and arrogant. But, sir, the soldier on the right argued, this isn't your typical prisoner. That's the Red Lady. Yes, yes. I read her file. Hawkins waved his hand. A chosen of Temptra, one of those despicable chaos gods. Just because she can call upon her goddess doesn't mean she's immune to the law. Her records, since she became active 2 years ago, show her to be brash, impulsive, argumentative, rude, insubordinate, and vulgar. A typical mercenary attitude, no doubt caused by the goddess of hers, by that goddess of hers. Pity. She'd be quite the lady if she were more obedient. Oh no, Dave's about to ask an important question. Did Annie give you a spanking as requested? No. No, she did not. What is being given? What book? Okay, so Cherry Blossom Girls or Greystone Chronicles are two very good options. So is Everybody Loves Large Chests. Those are good ones. But you know, anything you want out of my catalog. Today we are celebrating 400 subscribers, by the way. Thank you guys so much for stepping up and doing the subscribe thing because that's incredibly important to us doing a good job at uh, keeping up with you guys and doing this show. We need viewers. We need people to watch on a regular basis, and subscribing helps us get more, become more visible. It's kind of like rankings on Kindle. The higher. Oh, Clay P. Griggs, he was 400. So thank you for being 400. Uh, Clay, did you request an audiobook? If you request an audiobook, I'm gonna save one audiobook just in case you want to request it. If you don't request it in the next 10 minutes, I'll let it go. But um oh, sweet. Already more subscribers. So it's like Kindle rankings. Um the more subscribers the channel has, the more visible it is to everybody. It'll come up in more people's regular feeds, the bigger the channel is. So, um, you know, you guys, the best thing that you could do for me for Sound Booth Theater is to go, tell your friends about it, get them to subscribe, go to the website, subscribe to our newsletter so that you can see what's coming up and get pumped about our next releases, and I'll be giving you info on the next streams and everything. So yeah, if you want to support us, please go get more subscribing done. Tell more people about us. Okay, so Clay P Griggs. I'm gonna combine all the letters in your name into one name. So Clay P Griggs is definitely getting a free audiobook. So we got one more. Aw, Jay Tavares, thank you so much. What a sweet thing to say. He says, "That's cool. I think I own most sound booth audiobooks. Haha. I'd rather support and buy them than take it from someone who could be missing out." You're so awesome. Thank you. All right. So, sorry. Back to the read. Guys, I'm really going to do it, Millie called out again from the image. Yes, you see, the captain crowed triumphantly. She's just trying to get our attention. I'll admit, the trick with the handcuffs was interesting, but I'm still in control here. Those walls are 5 foot thick stone with blessings inscribed in the center. There's no ways she could get out on her own. Sir? The left soldier spoke up again, watching the young woman shrugging and backing up. It's all about keeping them off their edge, Harkins continued, as if to himself. One must deny them the comforts they so desire so that you become their provider, opening your image up to their gratitude. Next up is the actual interrogation, where one's intimidation and persuasion skills are most needed to. With a bang, a large explosion shook the building, toppling Hawkins off his figurative high horse as he landed on his back with a groan. He quickly recovered, getting to his feet in a single leap. "What was that? What happened?" he barked. "Why is the image off?" The two soldiers, who had been slammed into the table in front of them, coughed and got back into their seats. They chanted together, pouring their mana into the crystal balls. "Sir, it appears a large area of effect spell disrupted the magic." the soldier on the left reported. Well, hurry up and bring it back, Hawkins bellowed. Yes, sir, the soldiers answered. Within a few moments, the image stabilized and returned. That's an advertisement. Fuck you. Yay. Okay, Charles Dean just gave me the new link for our Drinking with Charles episode that's going to be happening right after this. So I'll go ahead and drop it into the chat. Ding! Don't miss it, guys. It's going to be fun. And I'm going to do the rest of the thing here. Gamelet Society. There we go. Okay. Previously bare room was now covered in dust, with a large hole centered around the middle of the former wall. Massive pieces of stone were scattered in the distance. Captain Hawkins' eye twitched as he surveyed the damage. It appears I was denied critical, need-to-know information, he growled. The soldiers shivered as the captain's sword gave off a blue light. Captain Hawkins, a voice suddenly echoed in the room, I've received word that there was an explosion at your post. The captain tensed up and saluted. Sir Rolfe, that report is correct. The prisoner appears to have created a large explosion and escaped the interrogation room. I will set out at once with men in pursuit, sir. There was a long pause. Captain, you did receive my order to feed her promptly, correct? Rolfe's voice came dryly. Hawkins began to sweat. Sir, I was told that it was good advice and not actually an order, sir. Huh, Rolfe sighed. No need for you to bother chasing after her. I know where she's going. You stay there and begin fixing the interrogation room. The cost is coming out of your bonus. Sir, yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. Hawkins sagged visibly. The two soldiers held in their snickers, but not well enough, as Hawkins turned his glare onto them. Has to load the next page. Guys, I don't know why I have not switched out my device yet. James Lee, is that number 5? James Lee gets an audiobook. Hell yeah. And that's the last one for today. No. Okay. 10 people watching. That's cool. All right. Gonna have to reload this thing. What are you two waiting for? He barked. Go collect the stones and bring them back to the wall. We paid good money for them and need to rescue as many as we can. Oh, my poor bonus. Millie whistled away as she skipped down the road toward the town in front of her. As she passed folks by, they turned to greet her merrily and with much joy. Millie, welcome home! A guard bowed to her. Millie's back! Millie's back! A few children cheered and waved. Millie smiled and waved back at them. Hey, Millie! An old mercenary called. You finished your mission, right? Come on over tonight, and I'll buy a drink to celebrate. Millie, welcome back, a stall owner called out. Here, come try my new wares. They're fresh from the northern caravan. Millie! Welcome. She's back. Millie waved at everyone as she made her way to the largest building in the middle of the small town. This was the town hall, a building holding the leaders of Nahatra, the Adventurers Guild, and the Gathering Hall Tavern. It was the center of everything, and Millie's off-mission home. She pushed open the wooden doors and cried out, "I'm back!" A man stood behind the counter, older, with less hair, but the same Fred as he had been 2 years ago. The aging adventurer could not keep the smile off his face as he watched his precious daughter race across the room and into his arms. Um, Welcome back, Millie, he said, hugging her. Millie closed her eyes and enjoyed the feeling of warmth and comfort that only comes from family. In the 2 years since their escape, the people of Nehatra had recovered and banded together. Thanks to the actions of Father Jonas and the two countries, the elven forest of Glenwood and Valorek, the survivors had arrived safely at the border of the two countries. They were given refugee status and aid, saving many lives. "Did you do good?" Fred asked, releasing Millie. Millie smiled sheepishly and scratched the back of her head. "Well, I did." She jumped at the sound of the doors being flung open. A squad of soldiers marched in, bearing the symbol of Valorek. They paired off and formed a path between them, leading to Millie and Fred. Fred, used to this situation, rolled his eyes at Millie. "Again, girl! Ah, this isn't my problem anymore, is it?" he remembered. Fred chuckled and called out, "So, Rolf, the usual. Make it double. I think it's going to be one of those days," Rolf answered, walking inside. The tavern girls all cooed in awe as the handsome and dashing young man strolled confidently into the room, his armor glistening in the light of the afternoon sun. Okay, so Rolf is a young, handsome man, not a Gandalf character. Millie just rolled her eyes and dropped down into a chair. She gestured next to her and said, "Hey, Rolf. Here, grab a seat." Shaking his head, Rolf pulled his seat out from under the table and sat in it. "All right, before we begin, I need that drink," he said evenly. "Sure, I'll wait." Millie smirked. Fred finished pouring the cool ale and sat it upon the table in front of Rolf. In front of Rolf, shooting the older man a grateful smile, Rolf downed the drink in a single gulp, slamming the mug down. "All right, let's begin." Rolf frowned. "Operative Millie, you've once again broken protocol, disobeyed orders, escaped from prison, and destroyed royal property. How do you plead?" "Guilty, as usual," Millie said, rubbing her lower back in disinterest. "What's the sentence?" "Can you at least try to act innocent?" "Can you at least try to act innocent?" Rolf groaned in exasperation. "Isn't the normal response to plead innocent first?" "You tell me, soldier boy." Millie winked. "I live by my desire, unlike you who choose the life of an officer." The first year had been hard for the Nahatrans. The first year had been hard for the Nahatrans. Even though they had survived, most had lost everything in the escape. The few who had something had been forced to part the few who had something had been forced to part with their things for much lower prices. For a while, the two countries did give them help. They did not stop the actions. For while the two countries did give them help, they did not stop the actions of discrimination against the stateless people. Princess Hilda did her best to lead as pressure began to mount over the months to join a country. Sorry. Princess Hilda did her best to lead as pressure began to mount over the months to join a country, doing what she could to stop slavers and armies from taking away the few remaining soldiers they had. Every surviving general was offered a post in Valorek, and every magic user was headhunted by Glenwood. In response to the growing dissatisfaction, the decision was made at Princess Hilda's council to allow a few talented men and women to join the other countries to lessen the pressure and to create allies within the other courts. Among the young talents, none shone as brightly as Rolf, who quickly rose through the ranks to become a leading commander in the Valorec army. It would have become he would have become the youngest general in their history had it not been for his refusal to swear loyalty to the country. Millie, too, had been one of the young talents, accepting chosen training at the main Church of Yore in Glenwood. She had done well there until it came to light that she was attempting to rebuild the Church of Temptra. Upon refusing to dismiss Temptra as her goddess, she was promptly expelled and banished back to the refugee town, where she spent the next few months protecting the citizens and driving every slaver out of the region. She was ruthless against anyone seeking to harm the people, even going so far as to injure a rather crooked ambassador who tried to pull Princess Shiva into unwanted marriage alliance. That particular incident landed her in the royal jail, where she promptly escaped and proceeded to rob the ambassador's house blind. She then smuggled the gold to the Nehatrans and turned herself back in with the evidence showing the ambassador had been colluding with foreign spies. As a result, as a result of the subsequent investigation, the gold was never recovered. It was Rolf that pulled her out of jail, arguing with his superiors and even the king that her talents could be better used in the field against the Empire's spies. Even though the conquering giant had split in two and fell into civil war, owing to revelations of corruption ma- owing to revelations of corruption magic in their highest order, both sides still engaged in warfare against their neighbors. The Royal Empire, headed by the Emperor himself, ruled the northern part of the former country, while the Faithful Empire, ruled by the Council of Priests, ruled the south. Both sides fought each other and the other southern countries. Valorek, the topmost human country in the south, was no exception, and plenty of enemy spies had entered the region. Due to Millie's various displays of her talents, the highest members of the Royal Army agreed to employ her as an agent under the watch of Rolf and Spymaster. It had been a year since then, and Millie had succeeded in unearthing more spies than any other agent. Unfortunately, most never lived long enough to be interrogated, and she had a bad habit of escaping punishment with brute force. Millie, we aren't kids anymore. Rolf shook his head. It's time to grow up a little and follow orders. Even if you complete the missions, you're not fostering any friends or bolstering anyone's confidence in you. I have no desire to stay in this country, Rolf, or obey their rules, Millie said pointedly. I want to return to Nahatra and start your own church there. I know, Rolf nodded. Believe me, you've repeated your dream plenty of times to me. Have you even considered how hard that's going to be without friends in the upper echelon? Millie raised an eyebrow. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I have plenty of friends here. I'm on a first-name basis with every member of the Nahatran royal family. Rolf rubbed his forehead. Millie, it's going to take a lot more than them to help you with your dream. That's the first I've heard of that, Millie said, leaning forward onto her and drawing attention to her sizable bosom. Since when can't a royal allow a church into their country? Since this. Rolf pulled a piece of parchment out and slid it over to Millie. Millie picked it up gingerly and examined it. What's this? More orders? It's a royal decree from the Valoric government. Rolf sighed. I got this from Princess Hilda earlier. It says that if the princess intends to allow for a church dedicated to a chaotic god in her country, Valoric will cease providing military aid. What? Millie's eyes shot to the document and began reading quickly. Your latest mission resulted in a noble's manor exploding, Rolf explained. Not only did you kill the enemy, you also ended up killing a number of innocent people who worked there. You didn't think before you acted, and now everyone thinks that if you start a church, everyone will behave just like you. They don't want a cult of pyromaniacs running around the place. I killed innocents? Millie said, looking startled. Hold up. I saw the other side of that portal. It was in the mountains. Contrary to what you may be thinking, my goddess heavily frowns on collateral damage. No, don't give me that look. Let me finish.
in the form of innocent bystanders. One of my abilities is to sense if any civilian is in the blast radius of my attacks. There was no one innocent on the other side of the portal. I believe you, but I doubt anyone else will. Rolf, Rolf frowned. Without friends and backers, no one will believe your words and will accuse you of lying. That noble who died, he was a big supporter of the king. While you as a chosen can't be persecuted by royalty, you can be tried by the clergy. A tribunal has been convened, and a holy father is coming. I'm going to court. Why didn't you start with that? Millie cried out in panic. I wanted to ease you into it. I'm not feeling ease. And that's it. That is a little section of Jeffrey Falcon Logue's Millie's story, Knife in the Dark, a Slime Dungeon Novella, Book 1. So, yeah, it seems interesting. I like Millie. She's a fun character. It seems funny. And there's an explosion. Ugh. Explosions are always good. People love explosions. So this might be worth checking out, guys. It's on Kindle right now. Millie's story, Knife in the Dark, Slime Dungeon Novella, Book 1. I guess maybe it's a prequel. Is it a prequel to the... Millie's gone through a lot ever since she became the chosen of Temptra, goddess of desire. It's been her against the world as her people suffer as refugees in a foreign nation. They connect chronicles to Reluctant Healer, filling in the gaps. Okay. Do we have has he published Reluctant Healer? I don't see that. I hadn't heard of that one. So anyway, yeah, go check it out, guys, if you are interested. And thank you, Jeffrey Falcon Logue, for making that request. I hope that helps people find it. All right, so where we at? Where we at? I got this from Princess Hilda earlier. Jeff, you need a checklist of your streams. Great work on the voices. Thank you, Scott. Don Barnett, agreed. Great voice work. I'll have to check this out. Okay, so our next one is Slime Gods. Slime Gods. At first I thought it was Slime Gods. And I represented it as such, and I'm sorry. Here we go. By Outspan Foster. That is an interesting name. If that is not a pen name that's been made up, I would like to know about it, where it came from. Okay. So let's read the synopsis for this series. All right, the first book, Call of Tuatha, says Lysander Blacknail invested 40 hard years of his life in service to the boar god Tuatha, but in Lysander's greatest act of service to his god, he is betrayed. He finds himself in the body of a slime, inheriting odd abilities and an overwhelming circumstance. His only drive for survival is revenge. As a slime, the weakest monster in the world, he must discover a way to gain enough power and get his humanity back. Okay, so it kind of reminds me of Everybody Loves Large Chests. Book 2 of Slime, a gamelit story. 6 months after Lysander's battle with Ran, he finds himself overwhelmed with the unexpected duties of godhood. He needs the dominion of the green to grow, or his power will stagnate. But not only is the dominion weak, it is attacked at every front, even within. Can Lysander face his new enemies and keep his dominion safe? Okay. Cool. I'm excited to get started on this. This sounds really funny. Is there a place where you can find out what books are being recorded and when they might be released? Yes, sir. Go to soundbooththeater.com and you will see our upcoming releases and what's just been released. Those are both prominent features of the homepage. And if you go there, you can subscribe to our newsletter. I try to get at least one newsletter out every month. I want to do more. because there's always so much news. I think I would save time if I did more frequent, less dense sound booth theater newsletters, so I want to get into that habit, but for now, you can sign up and, about once a month, we'll have updates as to what's coming up. Alright. So, slime gods. Alright, slime/Lysander, analytical and urgent, thinks like everything is a gear to a larger machine. Okay? Ungar, leader of gorillas, low, cunning, and ambitious, manipulative. Cool. Kremer, overly relaxed, doesn't take the fight very serious, has high regard for manners, and is annoyed by those who demand things of him rather than ask. That's interesting. Myrrh is a cat, very lax and lazy. Danos, a fox, proud. Jetzer, a fox, protective and tactful. Shadoff, a fox, small, childlike, curious. Cray, an underground mountain, speaks like a low rumble, a coward and lazy. Depika, a 17-year-old girl, like a chipper cheerleader. All right. Well, here goes. Oh, first person, and I guess I'm Lysander narrating. I rolled my eyes. You're a vegetarian. Ungar pushed his head toward mine till he was an inch apart. I could make an exception. I smiled back. I smiled back. Bite me. No, seriously, go ahead. Watch what happens. I'll remove the blessing so you can try it. But I'll respond in kind. You touch me, I touch you. I did some research on Gar. I felt through my instincts in the past week and discovered that if I beat you a third time, you must forfeit all rights to make any attempt on my dominion. Not only that, you and your weakened dominion will be absorbed into the green. What I said wasn't exactly true. I didn't look into my own instincts and search out the special rules of Gaia through feeling. I tried, but I didn't get anywhere except for a useless 5 minutes of Claritas. Claritas? I don't know what that means. Instead, I simply asked Myrrh. He was so in touch with his instincts, he could probably ask Gaia herself what her favorite color was, and he would get an answer in less than a second. Myrrh knew himself to a degree I envied. Ungar chuckled. Well, well played, human. But it won't be me you are fighting against today. He clapped his hands. A giant, ugly monster the shape of a snail slid forward into my view. It had tentacles floating and wriggling from its mouth underneath his hundred eyes. It was a terrifying creature that looked like it belonged in the bottom of the ocean. It must have been the giant land mollusk Tajel talked about. Tajel. Hmm. What's up? It's Annie, everybody.
And she wants to know about the headphones, if they're battery powered or pluggy innies.
They are battery powered. They should be charged.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah. And then there's like a phone button on there that if you just hold it down, it turns them on.
A phone button?
Yeah, it looks like the handle of an old school phone.
Okay, you hold it down.
Sorry about that. Ah. Clarita. Um, Clarita ITA. So I don't know what that means. I think it's a drink. Maybe it's a drink. Not sure. Okay. Which question? Which question are you talking about, Scar? Uh, okay, now who's the does the mollusk have a voice? Is he an underground? Is it Cray? Um, I'm confused. I'm confused about this. No, she didn't spank me. I'm very disappointed. Um, okay. Any of the beasts? Okay, I guess they're in a scene with a bunch of beasts. Capital P, capital B.
Capital P, capital B.
Okay, I'm gonna start here. He clapped his hands. A giant ugly monster the shape of a snail slid forward into my view. It had tentacles floating and wriggling from its mouth underneath his 100 eyes. It was a terrifying creature that looked like it belonged in the bottom of the ocean. It must have been the giant land mollusk Tajel talked about. Many of the beasts murmured in surprise. I heard recognition in their voices as if the mollusk was some kind of celebrity among the beasts. The mollusk said, "Pleased to meet you, slime god of the green. I am standing in for young Ungar here, more for perfunctory reasons than any personal ambition. I owed a debt to his mother. Please do not take my challenge personally." Ungar grunted. "Huh. Keep your promise, old one." The mollusk's several hundred eyes gave Ungar an admonishing look. "Hold your tongue, Ungar, or when the protection barrier goes down, I will snap it off for you." The mollusk pulled out two giant crab-like pincers beneath his minty tentacles. Mini tentacles, not minty tentacles. He pushed them out to me. He pushed them out to me in salute. Ungar said to me, I forgot to go with his voice. Sorry, guys. Um, Ungar said to me, "Kremer the Wise wishes to challenge you, human. He has survived multiple epochs." I swallowed hard. I looked at Kremer the giant land mollusk, a monstrosity from a different age. I said, "He is the one who asked to proclaim a challenge to my right of the Dominion." From what I had learned from Ran, the older epochs valued politeness. I decided it wouldn't hurt in this position to be polite. I addressed the mollusk and bowed deep. "Thank you for visiting my humble dominion, old one. I welcome you as I would a father." The mollusk's tentacles wriggled into something that resembled a smile. He said, "Oh, a new god that has manners. I like you very much. It is a shame I am tasked to kill you." I stopped bowing, paused at his words, and nodded. "It is a shame. I would spend more days listening to your wisdom." The mollusk laughed. "Oh, it's not my wisdom you want. I have good stories, the best, and jokes, although not everyone in this age understands my humor." He looked back toward the twin mountains behind the pond as if someone were going to say he never had a sense of humor to begin with.
Charge you for the headphones.
Um, you should pluck it out this brown cord here.
Brown cord?
Yeah, you see the white iPhone cord? That?
Yeah.
No, it's the brown one. Sorry, guys, they need help. Okay. Although not okay. I didn't know what to make of the mollusk. Wait, no. He looked back. Okay. Although not everyone in this age understands my humor. He looked back toward the twin mountains behind the pond as if someone were going to say he never had a sense of humor to begin with. I didn't know what to make of the mollusk. He was old, which meant he was powerful. I had a strong bet he was much more powerful than Ungar, which I didn't like. Everyone in the pond acknowledged his presence, and a few even bowed down to him out of respect. The spike cheetahs I had run into were here now, and they bowed to him as well. Ungar the Wise. What had he said? He was tasked to kill me. Why all this talk before the fight? Ungar looked up at the sky and flared his teeth in annoyance. Enough. State your claim, old one, and give your full strength. You owe a debt, he added. Please, I ask this of you as the leader of the Silverback clan. He bowed low, clearly nervous to offend the old mollusk. Kremer seemed annoyed and looked up. I swear one of his many eyes gave me a wink. He said, I, who many of you may know as Kremer the Wise or Kremer the Wanderer, claim a challenge against the slime god, the god of the green, Lysander Blacknail, for right of ownership of the pond under the perfect moon while she stands the most high above us. I looked at the moon above and flared open all of my channels. Danos's ears perked up. I felt some sort of resistance from him. No time to think about it now. Through him, I was the epitome of the pride of a beast. I felt savage hate for anything that wasn't a beast. I could hear everything around me, but it all made sense. I felt a deeper connection to Gaia and could even feel the air like water on my skin. I tasted my sharp fangs. All I wanted to do was be a beast, and beasts fought and killed to live. Myrrh looked at me and said, Okay, I gotta remember Myrrh, a cat very lax and lazy. Be stupid. Through him, Danos's wild passion and pride were tempted with my head cleric's dispassion for anything except the pond. I felt a unity with the place that was unlike anywhere else I had ever been. I knew that simply being here gave me an advantage I had nowhere else. An advantage I had nowhere else. My instinct stirred, and I felt I had dropped in a giant pool that was the world. My senses expanded several yards outward. I was a giant, titanic in strength and power, but in the shape of my own body. Cray rumbled through my connection and said, An underground mountain speaks like a low rumble, coward and lazy. Protect yourself. Protect yourself. Nothing could harm me. I was a small undermountain full of the densest stuff in the world. Cray's mind? What? Cray's mind. All he cared about was eating dirt and being safe. In a way, that was a quiet ambition to itself. Any kind of mental attacks were quieted against Cray's dull mind. Murr wanted me to be stupid, but he had learned over time to respect those who were dumb, and no one was dumber than Cray.
Kray's unbreakable power was added to my body with the other clerics. Jetzer thought to me. Jetzer is a fox, protective and tactful. Win, Grandpa! His memories flooded in me. I saw my family helpless under the magic of the mark of the slough? S-L-U-A-G-H, slough? Slow? The slime god gave us a chance to overcome it, much like the way Mother had done. I realized that if I pushed my limits, I could control any situation, no matter how frightening it could be. My competitive nature came not from competing with others, but the greatest enemy, which was my own weakness. I was the alpha, and there was no question about it. Confidence and slick speed was granted to me. Shadoff was asleep, but I felt him wish me a... This must be another fox. Good luck, Grandpa, before wandering off into his own bizarre dream world of bugs and outlandish trees and places far from here. Through Shadoff, I gained an endless curiosity, greater than my own. He was not strong like his brothers, but he was quicker in many ways that mattered, sometimes even smarter than me. Why? Because he never stopped asking questions, especially when presented with an unsolvable problem. Limeria's memories were always with me. I was quick, fluid, shapeless, and wise. Her connection, the pond, rang true, although not as deep as Murr's. To the pond, I think is what he means. I got a Depika, 17-year-old girl, like a chipper cheerleader. You got this, slime! From Depika before she closed off completely. That was okay. I wouldn't know how to incorporate her singing abilities anyhow. Trying new abilities in a fight with a multi-epoch old spirit entity wasn't a wise idea. My power flared and ebbed and pulsed outward from me. I could feel the fear and awe and wonder in the beasts around me, even from the older beasts. This was the new magic, strange to the older ones, but undeniable in its power. I sucked in my strength so my entire body contained it. I looked at Kremer the Wise, the Wanderer, and nodded in agreement. I'm ready. I, the Slime God, Lysander Blacknail, the god of the Green Dominion, accept your challenge under the perfect moon while she stands the most high above us. Kremer smiled at my words. I yelled out for the beasts to hear. Prepare yourselves! I pulled the blessing down. Nothing but silence filled the pond. Kremer spoke a single word while his eyes closed, and all my senses except my touch and pain were shut off. Something very hard rocked into me, and I felt myself colliding into the earth like a rag doll. Several health warnings popped up. They weren't things I needed my eyes to see because they appeared in my head. I willed away the warnings about the severe chunk of damage inflicted onto me, and kept the ones open about my status. You have been cursed with eyes of the world. You have been gifted with Kremer's lullaby, silence. Your soul is being scanned and interpreted by Kremer's sight. I didn't know what any of those abilities did exactly, but I got the result pretty clear. My mind worked fine, and my instinct, my connection to Gaia, was okay. So was my connection to my clerics. But everything else was dead, like they had never been a part of me. In a single move, Kremer the Wanderer had taken out most of my senses and my ability to feel my surroundings with my skin. I hate it when damage is inflicted onto me, too. I might have panicked a little, but my connection with my cleric saved me. Kray's perfect mental stability helped me fight against the mental tumult of what was happening to me. Thanks for hanging out, Scott. I'll see you later. Luckily, Mur and Danos were watching the fight, so I borrowed their sight. It would have been great to have another cleric triangulate my position since both Danos and Mur were pretty much in the same line of sight. Their views of where I was were too similar. Still, I managed to dodge a pincher aimed to slice at my head. Somehow, the mollusk's pinchers were lightning quick. Speaking of lightning, they were infused with a deadly electrical aura. That meant I couldn't just dodge the attacks. I had to evade completely. It also meant I couldn't transform into any of the naiad, naiad, naiad water forms to get away. Electricity and water did not mix, especially not a magical level. Kremer adjusted his pacing. He wasn't faster, but his attacks had less of a pattern, something that I couldn't get a hold on. One of his attacks struck me and took away another bit of health. I had enough of that. I dove into Murr's pool of instinct, and I dove as deep as I ever had before. Something like a green well inside a bright red flame sat at the center of myself. The connection to Gaia helped me evade the attacks even more, but Deimos's pride and Jetzer's competitive nature wouldn't allow for me to simply dodge like a coward. I jumped backwards in a flip as a lightning bolt erupted just past my shoulder midair, singeing my body. I barely had half my health left as I ended up landing on a frog, killing it. Damn things were everywhere. Through Murr, I could see and hear Kremer laughing uproariously. He seemed to enjoy the random death of the frog. I found no enjoyment in getting my ass handed to me. But I hadn't landed on my 2 human feet. I landed on all 4, the hind legs transformed into the quicksilver of Jetzer for speed and the front paws of Danos for power. My front paws didn't have the power they had last week. Excuse me. I felt that strain on my channel again, unable to draw more from the memories. My head, of course, was a black and white spotted cat. What? I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm so confused, guys. To Murr's sight, I blurred. He purred and stirred his tail without a word. I collided into Kremer's giant mollusk shell with all of the weight of Cray and the titanic power of the Murcoat bloodline condensed into a single attack. I bounced off like a frog off a lily pad, for lack of a better analogy. I was out of anything to compare my situation except for being in real deep shit. My attack had rebounded against the mollusk, and I ended up taking most of the recoiled damage. I was at a quarter of my health left. Kremer's shell was stronger than anything I had encountered. His pinchers snapped at me, and I dodged away. But he had stepped into Mur and Danos' line of sight, so I couldn't see anything more. What? Stepped into? Okay. That doesn't... I don't get it. What happened? Okay, I think I'm okay. I collided into Kremer's giant mollusk shell with all of the weight of Cray and the titanic power of the Mercat bloodline, condensed into a single attack. I bounced off like a frog off a lily pad, for lack of a better analogy. I was out of anything to compare my situation to except for being in real deep shit. My attack had rebounded against the mollusk, and I ended up taking most of the recoiled damage. I was at a quarter of my health left. Kremer's shell was stronger than anything I had encountered. His pincers snapped at me, and I dodged away. But he'd stepped into Mur and Dano. Okay, sorry, I've read that whole thing over again. I was a fool to think Ungar would be proud enough to use his last chance of challenge against me. Wasn't that why I had deemed him the biggest threat and told Danos to keep an eye on him specifically? It was because Ungar used his words like others used a knife. It seemed like he had somehow convinced Kremer the Wanderer, a very powerful monster, to repay a debt by killing me. How old Kremer... How did Kremer know where the pond was? Was it some kind of locational magic? On Murr's instinct, I had a sudden feeling I should slip away. I couldn't rely on Lymeria's transformations, so I used Jetzer's speed. I darted away and gained a new line of sight again with Murr. I heard from Kremer through Murr's voice. And Murr sounds like what again? Ho ho! You are a funny young godling, aren't you? Strange magics of the new epoch, I see, but yours are even stranger. Reminds me of a couple old friends. You're exclusive as that damn thing. You're elusive as that damn thing. He chuckled. He chuckled before stepping on the ground, creating multiple fissures that cracked like webs toward me. Murr gave him an annoyed growl for messing with the pond's structure, and Kremer said, was Kremer again? Oh, sorry, little mercat. It's battle. Beneath the fissures shot up a green light that filled the cracks and coalesced into the shape of a dragon. The green spirit dragon opened its mouth and plummeted straight toward me. Ungar huffed and beat his chest excitedly through Murr's vision. I needed to see, but I also needed to live. I devoured the land beneath me and used my oldest trick in the book. I hid. But I didn't just hide. I absorbed all the dirt around me and condensed it. I used not just my own strength and earth affinity, but Kray's earth affinity as well, making a stone that could rival the strength of the meteor rocks that occasionally collided into the world. I crafted something and shot it up from the hole I devoured, because I knew hiding wasn't enough. Through Mur's sight, Kremer the mollusk redirected the green spirit dragon on the statue I made that was a perfect resemblance to me. My statue crumbled and decayed until nothing was left. I jumped up through the hole again and grabbed for Kremer's feet, only to find tentacles wrapped around me. I had ruled out using Limeria's water form through transformation because of Kremer's lightning magic, but I sensed none of that lightning emanating from him. So I thought about the rain, how I could be a single drop among millions. I fell like a raindrop laterally, slipping through his grasp. I thought about how a million individual raindrops created a river or a pond or a lake, or a hurricane. I pulled back up with the minuscule amount of health I had left, transforming into a small tempest that absorbed itself into what I am sure was the biggest raindrop to have ever formed in the history of the planet. I rocketed toward Kremer the Wise one more time. At the last moment before colliding into his shell, I splashed into the earth just beneath him and devoured the land, jumping back up so I was back on the ground rather than underneath it. I spit the dirt I had eaten and condensed into my body back on top of Kremer, trapping him in condensed earth. A tentacle broke through the stone that was as strong as metal, and Kremer pulled himself out of the hole, the tentacle pushing him carefully. A tentacle broke through the stone that was strong as metal, and Kremer pulled himself out of the hole, the tentacle pushing him carefully back on land. He looked like nothing had touched him at all. He used his face tentacles to wipe off the dirt. All right, so that was Slime Gods. That's book 2 of the Slime series by Outspan Foster. So, yeah, if you enjoyed that, go pick it up on Kindle. It's book 1 and 2 available. To be honest, how I felt about it was it had really interesting concepts going on, but I think just that little bit that we read there wasn't enough for me to really get a full picture of what this book is like. So it's not so much a comedy like Everybody Loves Large Chests is, at least from what I could tell. It seems kind of kind of intense and dramatic with like all these gods fighting each other and stuff. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed a lot of the writing. So thank you to Outspan Foster or whoever requested Outspan Foster's book. Um, Maybe we'll do another one sometime if it gets voted on. And again, go pick it up on Kindle if you're interested, guys. And now it's time for the third request. Let me look one more time. Fantasy Royale. So I'm gonna go get some more liquid to drink, and I'll be right back. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to find it's Trying to find Fantasy Royale in my email list. Do. Here it is. 9th chapter. Be right back, guys. Whew. Sorry, guys. Took a little bit. Had to help Elle with some stuff. Oh, I'm tired. I had a late night last night. Bachelor party. No scotch. I need to wait. I need to save all my alcohol capacity for later tonight. Drinking with Charles, which will be in 45 minutes or so. So let's see how long. Okay, we got 5 pages here. So thankfully this one's a bit shorter because I do need a break. I need to take a 15-minute nap before I get on drinking with Charles. I'm dead tired. But I'm really looking forward to it because Neven Uyev is a fun guy to talk to. And of course, you guys will get some more Annie in your lives. Hey, what's up, Falcon? Jeffrey Falcon Logue is in the chat right now. We already read your shit, man. You can watch the Oh, good. Okay, awesome. Okay, so on to Fantasy Royale with cheese. Harvalon is a 50-ish-year-old, mature, business-like woman with a slight fanatic obsession with strategy games. She overthinks things and often makes mistakes due to indecision. She also loses her head when things don't go her way. All right, Chapter 9. Death Descending. I did read about crystal balls. It was hot. Super hot. Like maybe the hottest thing I've ever done. Anyway. Ew, look at my hair. My hair looks terrible. No. Like flipped over. Anyway. Chapter 9. Death Descending. The Blair Witch flock is resting at a small hill in the middle of a forest. The female harpies are all loitering around, resting to replenish their stamina. They have to rest for about 15 minutes after every hour of flight, else they lose strength and will be unable to bear their own weight. This is one of the detrimental effects of having the powerful ability of flight. The flock has been flying throughout the flock has been flying throughout the night already, unwilling to allow their enemies a moment of respite before their onslaught. They may suffer a penalty due to an exhausted debuff, but it shouldn't matter too much. Scouts have been sent ahead to try to locate the enemy's base. Although the harpies are efficient, they don't worry about much. They are strong, real strong. They know almost as a certainty that they will have the numerical advantage. Anything else is beyond ludicrous. Even though they are evenly matched, they would still have the edge. Now, it's only a matter of time. Their leader, Harvalon, rests atop the tallest tree, leaning against the trunk. She is bursting with confidence. And why shouldn't she? Things are going well for her so far. She gained 2 whole levels after her rush tactic against the orc last night. Her- Annie's playing and singing. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Um, she gained 2 whole levels after her rush tactic against the orc last night. Her face is twisting into a smile. Her tactic was a good one. Harvalon is what one would call a veteran gamer. Her 40 years as a gamer has let her experience the best moments of gaming history. Her fondest memories are from the golden age of strategy games in the late 90s and early 2000s. Most people don't remember this era. This was a long time ago, way before the gaming industry buried the strategy genre in favor of arcade shooters, arcade shooters, MMORPGs, and arena games. The industry focused way too much on expanding its market to include everyone, and the simplicity of the games they made didn't quite mesh well with the strategy genre, which required a certain level of complexity. Being a neglected genre, the main body of gamers these days don't know the beauty of the strategies created by their predecessors. This is what allows her to use the time-proven strategy of a Zerg rush to completely take her opponent unawares. Certainly, there are many other complex strategies she could have used, but the Zerg rush is just so simple and efficient. It would have been a shame not to exploit it to its full potential. The smile on her face is not just about how well the tactic is working, but also about her luck in realizing the opportunity of using it. During the pre-game selections, she spent a fair amount of time browsing through the list of playable races. She was internally debating about which race could give her the edge she would need to win. After all, this is her chance to honor the classic strategy games. She won't fail. It wasn't until the end of the list she noticed the Harpy race. Harpies are considered a common but weak fantasy race, often featured in fantasy role-playing games. It is also it is also a race that are only known to have one defining feature. Among the sentient species, they have the rare ability of flight. Being able to have a race capable of flight didn't even register in her mind as possible until she saw them. It didn't take more than a split second from the moment she saw the Harpies before she thought of combining it with the Zerg Rush tactic. The main strength of the Zerg Rush is speed. Flying most certainly qualifies for this. Yeah, she feels pretty darn lucky. 1 second, guys. I just want to keep up on the chat. Talk about some blue balls. They are so blue they crystallize. Never to be used again. Crystal wine. Crystal wine. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. Uh, it's a pity she spent so much time selecting a race, however. It caused her to make a few mistakes later on. She set her character up to be an assassin. This felt smart at first, but she should have realized she shouldn't rush into danger. This is her minion's job, after all. If she had spent some more time at it, she would have chosen to be a mage. That would at least have made her capable of attacking or supporting them from a safe distance. Rookie mistake. The other mistake she made was not taking into consideration her racial weakness. Harpies don't really have proper hands, so this makes them terrible at tasks which require craftsmanship. The negative attributes she received were so high, she really just wanted to start crying. Foolish mistake yet again. Regardless, her choice of race made an aggressive playstyle a necessity. She does have a plan on how to remedy the situation, though. She only needs to swoosh. The flapping sound of a harpy's wings descending drags her out of her deep thoughts. It signals the arrival of her trusty advisor, bringing news from her scouts. Her advisor lands on a nearby branch and turns her head towards Harvalon. Mistress, the scouts have found our enemy! Nope, high pitch. Mistress, the scouts have found our enemy! She shrieks in a high-pitched tone. Harvalon raises her tired eyes and meets her advisor's stare. Report. We have found a small settlement by the mountain to our immediate west, only half an hour away. The enemy appears to be goblins, about 30 strong. Their fighting capacity is roughly 1/3 of the population. Poor quality equipment. Their leader appears to be a goblin with leather armor. Weapons unknown. The advisor is some sort of spellcaster. Type unknown. Our scout was spotted, so the enemy is aware of our presence. The advisor finishes her report. Man, that is a terrible, terrible voice. I hope I don't have to speak as her anymore. Harvalon nods slowly and lets out a deep breath. Thanks, Surreal, she finally mutters. A grin forms on her lips. A grin forms on her hips. That's hot. These are splendid news. This is the best case scenario. A first-tier race with only light armor. This should be easy. But she has to move fast. She can't allow him to prepare any further, or, God forbid, run off and hide. Hunting him down would waste too much of her time. She unfolds her wings and quickly takes flight. Hovering above her troops, she lets out a shrilling cry. Her war cry is echoed by nearly 30 lesser voices. Her chest swells with satisfaction. The hunt is on. The flock takes wing and soars into the sky in unison. The 30 lightly dressed harpies are flying in a disorderly fashion. A big clump of feathers, talons, and sharp teeth, and all that is visible from a distance. Above them, Harvalon and Sarissa are floating along, discussing the layout of the land and possible threats the goblins might procure. The occasional shriek from a harpy can be heard once in a while, but most of the half-hour trip progresses in silence. A knot ties in Harvalon's stomach as she mentally prepares herself for the coming battle. Fick. Blue balls and grinning hips. That's what Dave said. Even though she holds the clear advantage, her plan isn't foolproof. There are ways to counter her rushing tactic, but she just can't see a way for her to lose this early. The enemy seems to be just as poorly equipped as her own fighters, and she knows poor equipment also limits the possibility for strategies. There is just not a feasible way at this stage of the game for the enemy to fight her off. The only deciding factor is the numerical advantage, and Harvalon has her enemy beat on that note, almost 3-1. She just can't lose. Still, she gets this gnawing feeling in her gut. What if... No, she can't allow herself to be distracted. She just has to push through and follow the plan. Overthinking things can ruin the best laid plans, and decisive actions are just as important as good strategic planning. She is brought out of her deep thoughts at the sight of an approaching harpy. This one of her vanguard units arriving to report that the enemy is within sight. Harvalon would have preferred to do another night blitz attack, but her forward scout has already been spotted. A pity. It goes to show her enemy has some resemblance of a strategic mind. But just how dangerous can he be with the odds stacked against him? She halts her approach and waits for her fighters to form a loose circle around her. Since her element of surprise has all but vanished, she needs to do a proper analysis of the situation before she acts. There is no need to do anything unnecessary. Is there? What? It would be silly to read what they're writing. Silly chat people. Hmm. She is brought out of her deep thoughts at the sight of an approaching harpy. Oh. She beckons for two of her fighters to follow as she flies high above to get a good look at the hostile encampment. There isn't much to look at. A half-built shed is being erected next to a family small body of water which is hard to spot through the gaps between the large trees in the area. She can spot their pile of resources shortly behind with three goblins spread around it. There is no trace of most of the goblins, but she suspects the enemy is hiding all his crafter units out of sight, as to not have any unnecessary losses. Not bad thinking. Her enemy is keeping a cool head and thinks ahead. Not going to help him much, though. Excuse me. Her eyes move over towards the main cluster of the enemy's units. About 20 meters beside the pile of resources, she can spot the enemy's chieftain. He is surrounded by the rest of his goblin fighters in a loose, almost perfect circle. His advisor His advisor mage lingers on the outside of the circle, on the opposite side of where her forces are gathered. She takes a moment to analyze the situation. Excuse me. There seems to be a lot of thought put into this tactic. Excuse me. Her enemy has a few units covering his strategic objective, which is his pile of resources. A smart move, although it spreads his forces thin. It's not too bad, though, since his main force is close by and able to react quickly depending on the situation. His main forces are spread out in a protective circle around the leader. Not bad thinking it. Not bad thinking at all. This way, they're in a position to help their leader, while also spreading out in case of concentrated ranged fire-like spells. There are some peculiarities to his choice of strategy, though. Why has he placed his forces in the open like that? It would be safer to fight an aerial force among dense vegetation where mobility would become an issue. Standing in the open like this is just dumb. What is he talking about? Does he need visibility, perhaps? Maybe he is hoping for his spellcaster to be able to pick the enemy leader off before she can get to him? Later, J. Tavares. Yes, you will have time for a proper scratching. Um, for any of you planning on being there for drinking with Charles, Charles has just informed me that he's going to be about 5 minutes late. So, everyone start up a class action lawsuit. This is our opportunity. Charles said he was, we were going to do the show at 8 o'clock, and he's going back on his word. So, I think consequences need to be in order. What do you guys think? Yeah, lawsuit. Okay. She doesn't like this. Not one bit. What's up, Buddha Cat? On the side of caution, she throws out an inspect on the enemy commander. Goblin? Unknown. Equipment quality? Good. Leather. Unknown. No doubt about it. That must be the leader. A pity she is too far away to do a proper inspect. The information on the mage didn't reveal anything shocking either. Perhaps the player is really the mage? No, not possible. Her scout did observe the other goblins taking orders from a goblin in leather armor. She doesn't see anyone else down there who matched that description. She curses softly. There is nothing more to do. She has too little information to make a good decision. She still has an advantage, so she should just stick to her strengths. The enemy certainly has a plan in all this, but little do they know. Harvalon just got a trick of her own up her feathery sleeve. She takes a deep breath before she releases another high-pitched shriek, a call to attack. The distance, the massive clump of her army rises. From the distance, the massive clump of her army rises from the tree line and heads towards the enemy forces. Her units pick up the pace and move as one. The only way she can describe the sight would be to call it a blob of death. The massive group of harpies close the distance to the enemy and soon dives as a unit, heading straight for the enemy commander. Harvalon holds her breath. A trickle of sweat rolls down her forehead. Something feels off. Her eyes lock onto the goblins below. They don't look frightened. She can see how their muscles tense, their weapons are being raised, and their eyes lock onto the oncoming horde. She can see how the enemy leader raises his shield above his head, preparing to face the enemy charge head on. Her flock descends rapidly. It's almost a free dive. They only have one job to do, and that is to tear the enemy commander to shreds. They only need a few seconds to close the distance. Only 30 meters to go. 20. 15. 10. With only 5 meters to go, the enemy spellcaster releases a spell. With only 5 meters to go, the enemy spellcaster releases a spell. There's hardly enough time for her to register that something even happened before she sees a massive explosion occur at the center of her units. The blazing fire rapidly expands outwards, encircling her harpies. The sea of fire is bright. It's everywhere. It's too late for the rest of the harpies to avoid it. They just dove too fast. The battlefield is filled by the panicked screams of her fighters, her vision obscured by all the smoke. What? What happened? And that's it. So yeah, that was Fantasy Royale. Um, Gotta look up the author's name one more time because it's a little tricky. Um, oh yes, Fantasy Royale by Sindre, Sindre, Wirkola, Wirkola. So yeah, thank you, Sindre, for requesting. It was actually pretty fun to read. Interesting idea, like to play as harpies, and I like the analogy to the Zergs. The what are they called? The Zergling Blitzkrieg or whatever the hell. Um, so that was cool. So yeah, if you guys liked that, go check it out on Royal Road Legends. If you look in the description in this stream, you will find links to both of the books that I read today and the Royal Road entry that I read today. This is gonna be it for the show. So thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out. Uh, let's see, what time is it now? It's 6:34. So in about 30 minutes, we're gonna have Drinking with Charles. Neven Ilyev is gonna be there with us. Annie Ellicott is gonna be there with us. Um, and we're gonna be drinking. Actually, I'm gonna be drinking for Neven because he doesn't drink. So I'm gonna be double sloshed. We also have a little bit of a surprise. And since Charles is gonna be late, I think it's gonna come off a little bit better, the surprise, because we're gonna surprise Charles too. But anyway, yeah, so stay tuned. Well, actually, not on this channel, obviously. Please subscribe to this channel. I like subscriptions to this channel. And thank you, everybody, for the 400 subscriptions that we have so far. I hope, to get more soon in the future. And thank you guys for requesting audiobooks. I will get back to you, if not tonight, tomorrow, to get those codes to you. And Yeah. Also, we have one more Sound Booth Theater Live happening tomorrow, being hosted by our very own Justin Thomas James. And we're going to be going through voices for Cherry Blossom Girls too. There's a bunch of new characters in there. Lori's got a new character. I'm sure Annie's got quite a few good characters. So we're all going to be there, the whole crew, on Sound Booth Theater Live, and I'm very excited for that one. So and I think that's it for this stream. Again, thank you guys so much. Go to the website, subscribe to the newsletter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, join the Facebook group, do whatever you can to support Sound Booth Theater Live because we are building up momentum this year, guys. I'm so excited about how everything's going. I'm so happy with the narrators that have been working with me. I'm so happy with the fan response from all the reviews that our talented new narrators are getting. I'm just so excited about the future right now. And you guys are making it all happen. You guys are supporting us so well, buying our products, hanging out in the game lit groups, talking books all the time, supporting our authors. You make this possible. So thank you so much. And I will see you in another 20 to 30 minutes.